Rejoice, my children, for we have been blessed with the new diluvian mechanism. The new diluvian mechanism is a pretty cool feature, and I'm honestly a big fan of it, but it does actually have some underlying issues that it brings with it from a game design standpoint, and I feel like those issues should be mentioned sooner rather than later, because it could spiral out of control in the future and put the game in a worse situation. Because what the diluvian mechanism brings is power creep, and a lot of it. It's not just a small amount of power creep that comes with the diluvian mechanism. It is a significant amount where it can become problematic for the future. Because eventually, when void towers come around, they're going to have to make that better than the diluvian mechanism, right? Because that's going to be a whole big, large update for itself. That's the whole thing about the void towers, and that's going to be the similar-esque sort of thing. So the problem with that is that it's just going to have to be improved and be made harder, not necessarily harder, but the rewards as well. Because I feel like that's kind of where the problem lies almost with the diluvian mechanism, is that the rewards that you can get make farming other ways pointless. Now the diluvian mechanism is hard, in quotations I'm going to say, because it's not actually too hard if you have a team that you know what you're doing. You can duo it if you have two players with good kits and a good build and you know what they're doing. You cycle out your sacred field, you have a good build that's efficient enough. You can duo it, it's possible. But the rewards you get for it make farming anything else kind of pointless. You can get Storm's Eyes, you can get Crypt Blades, you can get Rail Blades, you can get Deep Crushers, you can get Gransu the Ruskis, you can get Curve Blades, I've probably already mentioned that. You can get the new Zelter Tide Knight, you can get Hero Blades, you can get Enchant Stones, you can get every single drop in the game pretty much. Except for, well, certain few like Bloodforged Crown, but then again, that doesn't really matter that much because that's not like loot that's valuable other than drip. That's pretty much all it is. But the loot that you are capable of getting from the diluvian mechanism is cool, but the problem in there is just it makes other things useless. Like Hell Mode. Why do Hell Mode now? Realistically, why would you do Hell Mode? I want to see some good reasons why you'd want to do Hell Mode over the diluvian mechanism. Because I feel like with the diluvian mechanism now, is that you're just capable of doing that instead of Hell Mode, because you have the increased rewards at wave 50. Even at wave 40 you get better loot, like you get consistent 3 stars, which are generally better than all of Hell Mode's gear, and it's, I wouldn't say faster, but it's more consistent than Hell Mode. And at wave 50 you're pretty much guaranteed loot that's better than a Hell Mode. Sure, it takes a bit more time, but it's way more consistent, so you'll get it way faster overall. And I feel like that's just kind of sad, because it just means that Hell Mode is gonna be kind of phased out. Like, Hell Mode doesn't really have much of a purpose right now. Like, realistically, Hell Mode doesn't have a purpose right now. Oh, but the relics! Yeah, but you get relics from Diluvian now as well, you fucking numbnuts. What's the point of that? Huh? What's the point of that? None. There isn't a point to it. And I feel like this is kind of the problem with the power creep right now, is that they're adding things to make it new and better and unique. For example, with the Immortal Helmets, I wish I quite like, but it did come with a talent that made it unique, to say the least, which is good. It's good that they add these kind of stuff, but they don't need to. But the reasoning for it is that they want to bring something fresh and new to the table, but they don't always have to, because if they do, it kind of becomes a power creep. It will just power creep eventually if they do keep on adding this. And it's kind of problematic. Like, for the Immortal Helmet, they didn't need to give it this new talent. They could have just given it an old talent and had it with slightly better, slightly worse stats than usual. Like, it doesn't really matter that much, because it still would have been a good option. Occasionally, like occasionally it would have been a good option still. So I feel like just stuff like that will just enhance power creep more for the future, and it makes me slightly worried, but again, there are ways to combat this. Now, power creep is something that all games suffer from to an extent, so to combat this, you kind of have to update the older things. So with Hell mode, they're gonna have to update it to make it more unique, to make it worthwhile. But how do you make it worthwhile when Diluvian is pretty much a direct upgrade to it? You have to give it something more unique, something that makes it different than Diluvian, but still makes it worth it. And the only thing right now is a Diver's Light Plate. Even the Diver's Light Plates kind of falls through right now, because you only get 1 star confirmed. That's if you complete it, and you can get random rolls. So I feel like if you want to make Hell mode more worth it, you're going to have to be more lenient with Diver's Light Plate. Give me 3 Diver's Light Plates for completing it. Boom, suddenly it becomes more worthwhile, because you get 3 chances of getting an increased, a good Diver's Light Plate. And that's honestly what you're after when doing Hell modes these days, because you're not really after the loot, because if you were after the loot, you'd do Diluvian. Because Diluvian's way more consistent and pretty much easier. There's less risk involved as well with Diluvian, because you can pause the machine. You can't pause a Hell mode. So like with things like that, it's just that you have to increase the rewards for the old thing, or you have to decrease the rewards for the new thing. So for this reason, I kind of feel like, well, like I just said, with Hell mode, give us more Diver's Light Plates when we complete it, or you should make them better. Make them 3 stars or 2 stars. 2 stars still probably wouldn't be worth it, because you could still do Diluvian and get better. Make them 3 stars. Honestly, that'd probably be a better shout. Or you could just give us 3 or 5, because it's really not that enticing anymore. Hell mode isn't enticing compared to Diluvian. And the same thing with the bosses, for example. Why farm Primadon now? You have Diluvian where you can get Primadon's loot pool, but just increased and better. You get more EXP from Diluvian as well, pretty much. So it's like, what's the point of Primadon now? Ferryman, you still have a point, because you can get the rings. You don't get rings really from the Diluvian mechanism, and that's something that sets Ferryman apart and makes Ferryman good. That's something that they should do for the other things, is I have something in the loot table which is important, but doesn't take away from it as well. So like Ferryman being very different from the Diluvian with the rings, you still get access to relics as well, which is nice, but it gets access to rings while Diluvian does not really get access to that. And that's why you would farm Ferryman over Diluvian if you're trying to get good rings, because otherwise you'd do Diluvian, right? And that's why Hell mode and Primadon is suffering right now. Like Primadon and Hell mode, there's not really much point doing them. I'll be honest, there isn't. You can do Diluvian much better. So, like I said, to combat this, you just kind of have to tweak the rest to make them more worthwhile. Because if you don't, it's gonna end up getting out of hand and the game will spiral into a worse state. But I trust that the devs will do something good with this, because they have proven it before, time and time again. They have proven it that they can actually produce something that is worthwhile, that is worth doing. And that's why I'm hopeful that they can do it. But at the same time, I'm a little bit worried, because they still decided to take this approach without having any thought behind its consequences. So that's why I wanted to also get this out there. So hopefully this can have some impact on it in the future. But anyways, that'll be it from me. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. You can join my Discord to see my next uploads. Otherwise, I'll just have to see you in the next one. Peace.